Today I would like to read for you what I would like to call friend fiction. And this is not the only friend fiction I've written. Maybe I'll show you more friend fiction in the future. But this is a fan fiction about my friends. A lot of people, and myself included if you've watched the first books I ever wrote series, write books about themselves that are self-inserts. They write about a story where they're awesome and incredible, and I thought to myself, man, that is lame, and no one likes when anyone does that. So I'm like, what if I did that for someone else? What if I did that making someone look awesome and great and hyping them up, and just not for myself, do it for them and not for myself. So this is one of the many times I've done something like that. Maybe I'll read the other one for you. The massive project, the massive friend fiction, the massive Game of Thrones style friend fiction that I wrote about my friends. But today I'm going to read you what I call Josh's Bad Day. Now, Josh, of course, is a good friend of the channel. If you watch Trailblazers, he was a co-host on that show, as well as in my E-Boy video. He helped me out in that video as well. So let's start in part one. Part 1. My day was worse than yours. Today sucked. I just spent 2 hours cleaning the kitchen because my twin brothers neglected to clean it the previous night. They had to go bonding with my grandparents. And Brandon was off doing whatever Brandon does. So it was just me and Ben. Ben was busy babysitting though, so the responsibility fell on me. Great, right? Gravy was all crusted on the plates, and the dogs dumped all of the garbage because someone put food in the garbage can. You can't do that. The dogs will knock it over and make a gigantic mess that I will then have to clean. Well, anyway, I was able to get it done. I grabbed a can of dew out of the fridge. I had earned it. I walked out to the living room. I had the controller in my hand. I was about to press start. "Josh," said Ben. I shouted back, asking what he wanted. "There's a bear in the kitchen." I sighed so hard. This was bullcrap. Ben had to be lying, right? He just wanted to make my day worse than it already was by screwing around with me, right? Wrong. There was an actual bear in the kitchen. Apparently, bears are just as attracted to food in the garbage can as dogs are. Go figure. It was just a black bear, though, so I just needed to smack it over the head with a pot a few times to scare it away. I was pretty frustrated at Ben. There was no reason to call me in there when he could have taken care of it himself. Well, I would have, but you came and did it. I called you here because the bear knocked the door down and we need to fix it. So you need to take some money from my wallet and go get some stuff to fix the door. This wasn't happening. This had to be a bad nightmare. I looked longingly at my dew and knew I had to set it aside for now. If you don't know Josh, there's a lot of themes here, a lot of things that correlate to his life, like enjoying the Mountain Dew. When I wrote this, they had dogs that every day if there was a drop of gravy in the garbage can, the dogs would knock over the garbage can. Oh yeah, Josh is a fan of Mountain Dew. He is a fan of video games as well. There was a time where like Ben would have to pay for a bunch of stuff. So he said we would tell him to take money out of his wallet, that I remember anyway. This was a long time ago. But good times. This was probably 5 years ago at this point. I hopped on my bike and headed down the street. There's got to be a hardware store somewhere in town, right? Well, I never found out because some guy rammed into me with his car. He saw me and just didn't stop. I was fine, but my chain popped off. I wasn't even mad about getting hit. I just wanted to get the stuff so I could fix the door so I could relax. But this guy got out of his car and started shouting at me. I was like, really, dude? He was the one that hit me, and I was standing there with my bike chain in my hand, and I didn't know how to put it back on. But he was mad. This guy was wearing a suit and stuff, and the two guys with him were wearing suits too. I don't know who these guys were, but he kept whining about his family. Yeah, dude. I got a family too, and they are gonna roast to death if I don't fix the door that the bear knocked down. It's summer. It's hot. And if I don't fix the door, all of the air conditioning is going straight outside. This guy wouldn't stop, though. He pulled a gun on me in broad daylight. I used the bike chain to yank the guy's hand, but when I did, he let a round off and right into one of his guys. Whoops. It was funny, though. So I spun the guy around and choked him with his own arm, and used him as a shield so the other guy wouldn't shoot me. He tried, though, and he missed. He hit the guy I was holding. The other guy wasn't too smart, because he unloaded his whole clip into his buddy. So I dropped the guy I was holding, and chucked my chain at the last guy standing. It stunned him long enough for me to land a solid punch right on the sweet spot of his jaw. It was rough. I felt his jaw snap. They left their car running, though. So I looked in the back seat just to see if there were any other guys, and wouldn't you know, there were door hinges in there. There were some pipes and hydrochloric acid and some ammonium nitrate, but I don't really know what that stuff was for. So I took the hinges and walked home, because my bike was broken. You might be getting a theme in my writings. In all of my writings, there's always organized crime for some reason. I don't really understand that. There's always organized crime and the mob, and the main characters always fight the mob. And if you watch or listen to or read my Storytime Saturday podcast or weekly issue, you might notice some inspiration. The main character, Mandy, is indeed inspired in a great way by Josh. I have described Mandy to my friends simply as Girl Josh in the past. I like how I really like how he so casually, just 3 people just died right in front of him, and he got attacked by 3 people with guns, and now he's just walking home on his bike because he doesn't know how to fix it. I do like that sort of comedy where a character is hyper competent in one aspect, but he sucks in something else. He's so good at fighting that he can wrap the chain around the neck and fight these 3 guys to the death, but he can't fix his bike. I walked in and gave Ben the hinges, and he says to me, "That will have to wait." What now? Did the Russians invade? Was there a meteor about to crash into the Earth? What's wrong now, Ben? Well, I had to go and take the old hinges off the door so we could put the new ones on. So I told Evan to watch the dogs, but he went in the other room. I didn't want to hear any more. So the dogs ran away? I said as I held my hand over my eyes. Ben says, "Pretty much." This was already 20 minutes, and I was getting frustrated. This was cutting into my gaming time. And now I had to go get the dogs because this kid Ben was watching let them run away. I told Ben to put the door on, and I would just go get the dogs myself. Ben didn't think it was a good idea, but I didn't care. So I walked down the road, and I saw the dogs at the end of the street headed towards the forest. So I yelled, "Bagel! Jewel!" And they started running away. I don't know where they got this energy, because they are the laziest dogs ever born. I was gaining on them, and I was sure that they were to get stuck on a root of a tree or something as they headed towards the woods, since they were tied together. No luck there. Just as I got close, I suddenly got tired, so I slowed down. I could still see them, though, but I say all of this for what happened next. So they finally stopped at a cave. Of course, because I was there, a satanic cult was sacrificing a child. If Ben had gone, this wouldn't have happened. It was just because it was me. So I had to go in there. This kid seemed to think it was a joke, though. He wouldn't stop giggling. Gosh, it was so squeaky and annoying, I felt like just leaving him. But contrary to popular belief, I do have a heart. So I ran in there, punched a guy in the throat, stomped on another guy's kneecap. It probably broke. I don't know why he passed out, though. The other 2 guys were tricky because they had the knives. So I picked up a rock and parried the guy that thrusted towards me, hit him across the face with the rock, which, of course, broke his nose. Blood everywhere, right on my shirt. I was pretty mad, so I kicked the last guy in the nuts. Like, soccer kicked him, straight between his legs. He passed out, too. Bagel and Jewel were the names of the dogs. That was their names. And Evan was also the name of the kid that Ben actually babysat in real life. He babysat him the whole summer. I think he got paid $20 for the entire summer, like 200 hours. Ben got paid 10 cents an hour to watch this kid, from what I remember. He didn't get paid a whole lot of money. Once I told him how much he actually got paid, like how much per hour he got paid, he was furious. Once I broke it down and explained to him. Also a running theme in all of my writings, satanic cults. So we are seeing a microcosm of all of my writing and themes that I like to throw in to my writings right in here. Right in this tiny short story called Josh's Bad Day. So I untie the kid, and just my luck, it's Evan. I didn't even want to know how he got into this situation. I just took off my shirt and dunked it in the creek and washed it off on my stomach. Blood is tough to get out of clothes, though, so that was bad. So I went back to the house with the dogs and Evan. Ben didn't get the door back up. He was saying he had to clean, which was bullcrap since I had already cleaned. So I went and changed my shirt. When I came back down, a guy with a mask came and had a box cutter saying he wanted all of the goods. I told Ben to take care of it because I needed to fix the door that he was supposed to fix. So Ben jumped and kicked the box cutter out of his hand and shoved the guy outside. Of course, because it's Ben, he punched the guy and sent him flying right through the fence. So now the door is broken and the fence is broken. We had to call an ambulance because when Ben punched the guy, his torso went through the fence, but his legs hit the concrete, so his legs were broken. So he couldn't walk. So yeah, that happened. I got the door back up, though. Ben was going to have to fix the fence after Evan left. So that was an extra hour I had to spend. Up until then, it had been a normal day. So I like that punchline. After a bear breaks into his house, he gets attacked by the mafia, he stops a satanic cult, and rescues a kidnapped child, and gets robbed at knife point. That has all been a normal day. In real life, Ben is freakishly strong for, like, his frame, how big he is. Ben has done insane stuff like jumping off a 12-foot tree stump, tanking it. He does all sorts of crazy stuff. Not pole vaulting, like monkey vaulting over fences and stuff. Having all kinds of incredible feats. And of course, I like to exaggerate. They actually complained. All of the brothers complained at me for a number of years for hyping Ben up so much because I guess it went to his head or something. Part 2. When things started to get weird. Just as I was getting ready to lay my hand on my due, I heard a gun go off somewhere. So Ben says, "What was that?" Obviously, Ben had never heard a gun before, otherwise he wouldn't be asking. Ben and I ran outside, and there was a car full of jerks waving their guns around. I was so tired of fighting guys all day, so I told Ben to take care of it. Ben jumped forward, and as he landed, he punched a hole right through the hood onto the engine, which flipped the car right over. But as the car flipped, of course, the hood scratched his arm. The car exploded, but Ben's arm had a gash in it. So now Ben couldn't use his arm to make dinner. It was Jacob's night to make dinner, but he wasn't home. I cleaned the kitchen, so Ben was supposed to make dinner. But now, his arm was cut, so I had to do everything today. So I poured some rubbing alcohol in his arm and wrapped it up with an ace bandage. I don't know where my comedic sense went. As I'm getting older, I'm just getting less funny. I used to write funny stuff like this a lot, I feel like I wrote a lot of funny stuff. This is really funny to me. I wanted to wait until I played some video games to drink my due, but I was just going to drink it while I made dinner. Ben still had a good arm, so I tossed the potatoes in the air at him so we could cut them. We had to just make mashed potatoes since Ben cut them way too small. I had to rinse them since they all fell on the floor, though. So I got the broom and dustpan and put the potatoes in the sieve. I got the potatoes in the pot, ready to turn on the stove, and boom! I hear an explosion out in the front. I ignored it because I was assuming the car Ben hit exploded again. But through the window I see some debris flying, so I grab the broom and go outside. What do I see? Spetsnaz, says Ben. The Russians were invading. So a chopper comes from the air and drops 7 guys with assault rifles. They point them at me, shouting something in Russian. I throw the broom like a javelin right at the guy in the far left, and I grabbed it in the air as the broom bounced straight back off his head. So I chopped this guy in the throat and jabbed him in the stomach with the broom, and elbow his head. 6 to go. I used the broom kind of like a vault and kneed a guy right in the nose, knocking him to the ground. I punted his head just in case he wasn't KO'd. 5 to go. The next guy had enough time to react, so he had his rifle pointed at me. Seeing this, I used the broom part to sweep the rifle to the side as the gun fires off a few bursts. I clinched the guy using the broom handle and pull him into my knee. That KO'd him faster than I expected. 4 to go. The next guy, I just imagined his head was a baseball. 3 to go. That broke the broom handle, unfortunately, but I was able to use the 2 halves like eskrima sticks. Or eskrima sticks, I suppose. So the next guy, I just beat him down with the 2 halves, exploiting any opening that he had. 2 to go. The last 2 guys were firing at me, so I had to drop to the ground and kind of do a windmill to knock the guys on the ground. I rolled to a standing position and threw the 2 sharp halves right into the 2 guys on the ground. 7 guys down. So Josh single-handedly takes down 7 Russian special ops, and a callback to earlier in the chapter when he was asking Ben what could possibly be so important that he would be interrupting his gaming time. What, are the Russians invading? A nice callback to that. So I walked back inside, and the pot of potatoes boiled over, put the flame on the stove out, gas was filling the house, and the potatoes were overcooked. So I had to open the doors and windows in the heat to get the gas out, and the potatoes were glue-like. I had to deal with the Russians, so I couldn't even cut up the pork. Ben's arm was better at this point, and he could have opened a can of corn, but he didn't. So by the time I cut up the pork and opened the corn, the potatoes were cold. I threw the pork in the skillet, and just as I was about to put the corn in the pot, a missile went through the front window, out the back door, and blew up the driveway. What was outside? A Russian tank. Ben was fine now, and I wasn't going to let the pork get overcooked, so I told him to go take care of it. So we went outside, grabbed onto the barrel, and popped the entire top off. He discarded the barrel, grabbed out the guys inside, and threw them on the ground. These guys weren't normal, though. They had some sort of steroid or something. So these Russians press a button or something I couldn't see. But they went from around 6 foot to like 15. Their muscles got huge and everything. Ben picked up the top of the tank and used it like a golf club and whacked one of the guys over the house. Ben kicked the other guy's head clean off. That wasn't necessary. It was kind of cool, though. So this is probably the most ridiculous version of Ben. There are other characters that I've written, different versions of Ben that I've written about that are like clearly superhuman, even though they're just like regular people. But this Ben is the most superhuman. Josh's Bad Day Ben is the solo king. He is pretty strong, and even though he's like this super strong character who can kick these roided up Russians heads clean off, Josh still finds ways to complain about him. He didn't do it the right way. He didn't save the world the right way, so now we're mad. So Ben and I sat down for dinner, and after all that, Ben goes, "The pork is a little dry." I freaked out. I'm like, "The pork is dry? What else? Is the corn too corny? The potatoes too gluey?" And Ben has the nerve to say, "Actually, yeah." Unbelievable. I made Ben clean the dishes for dinner. So as I'm about to walk out of the kitchen to go sit down, finally, Zach comes in and says, "We've got a problem." Ben goes, "Russians? We already took care of those." Zach goes, "No, there are some warlocks on the bridge, and they're pulling a meteor down to the earth." So I side with extreme lung power. So Ben and Zach hopped on their bikes and went to the bridge. My bike was broken, so I had to walk. I grabbed an assault rifle from a KO'd Russian and slung it around my shoulder first, though. So we get to the bridge, and there are 12 warlocks there. So I pull up the assault rifle and I shoot one round at each of their heads. 12 rounds, 12 kills. Or it would have been if they didn't have barriers around them. So Zach tossed me one of his enchanted swords that he says can negate magic-based force fields. I actually don't know why he's always so prepared. So Zach and I start taking out these warlocks. I don't know why these guys weren't paying attention. The meteor is in sight above our heads as I took out the last guy. I guess they completed their mission because the meteor didn't stop falling. So Zach says to me, Josh, do you know how to stop a meteor from destroying the Earth?" I had no idea what to do. If Zach didn't know, nobody was going to know. But, of course, Ben has to voice his opinion. "I'll jump up there and destroy it." Zach and I kept trying to tell him that he couldn't do that because of the velocity of the meteor, the air friction making it too hot, the overall mass discrepancy between the two, but Ben wouldn't listen. The meteor got closer to destroying the world as we argued. The meteor was almost on top of us before Zach finally said, "Whatever, Ben, just do it!" So Ben jumped 500 feet in the air and punched the meteor right in the center. A visible shockwave shot out from the impact point and could be seen for miles. It broke up into thousands of pieces and fell into the river. But because Ben was wrong and doesn't know what he's doing, big chunks fell down and destroyed parts of the bridge. So I went back to the house. All of the collateral damage could be taken care of later. I sat down, ready to play video games. I got all the way to the load screen, and wham! The power went out. And that's why I'm writing this. So Zach, of course, is the host of Trailblazers. You've seen him before if you've watched that. He does look, magical and esoteric, and he is in real life quite a bit of a lore beard. Not as much as Josh has become over the years, though. Josh has kind of outpaced him in the lore department. But at this point, Zach was the lore guy, and he still is the lore guy. And I don't want to diminish Zach at all about his lore. Honestly, I love this story. So formatting is not as good as it could be. Obviously, my formatting has gotten better. My grammar has gotten better. I don't think my comedy's gotten better. I think I peaked comedy-wise around this time. This is so funny. The Meteor Trope, when I wrote this, I think only Madara had summoned a meteor at that point. I don't think it had happened in One Piece and friggin' Fairy Tail and One Punch Man and everything. I don't think the meteor happened in all of those yet. But this is honestly one of my favorite things I ever wrote. Josh's Bad Day. This is around half of the size of a regular chapter I would write now, and that's the whole story. The whole story is around 3,000 words. This is good. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but a lot of callbacks. Again, a callback with the meteor. Josh, when he's getting interrupted by Ben, he says, "What, is a meteor falling to the earth?" And that happens, of course, later. I like that. Things like gas fills the house. Like, he goes to save the day, forgets that the potatoes are on the stove. It boils over, puts out the fire, and gas is filling the house now. Which is probably something that happened in real life, too. That probably actually happened, which is why I wrote it. Sadly, as we get older, people move on. I still talk to Josh on occasion, but all of his brothers, the 5 brothers, they're, all going their separate ways. They're having their own lives now. Brandon is married and moved off. Josh is married and moved off. Ben moved out into his own apartment. So all the brothers don't live in the same house anymore. So the stories, the crazy stories aren't quite what they used to be. There's less inspiration to write stuff like this. Honestly, that's probably why it's so funny, because it's stuff you can't write. It's stuff that actually happened. Like that's funny that Josh has to walk through town with this rifle on his, which is probably an AK-74, with this AK-74 on his back, because he can't ride his bike. Zach and Ben take their bikes, and Josh has to walk because his bike is broken. So a lot of callbacks, a lot of stuff that's set up. I like it. I like this a lot. Honestly, very efficient writing, and I'm kind of jealous of old me. Even though my grammar's gotten better, I'm not sure that my metaphor and stuff has gotten better. This is concise. This is like exactly what I would want it to be. I'm kind of inspired now. I might, this might take on the this might be the style I take on for, more Storytime Saturday podcasts in the future. This is what I want this Mandy series to be, a longer version. Things in this 3,000 word story just continually ramp up and get sillier and more ridiculous. And that's what I want to happen in this Storytime Saturday thing as it goes on. It's intended to jump the shark. Every season, it's going to get dumber and dumber and dumber. And that's what I intend to do. That's like what I set out to do. So we'll see how it goes. But that's Josh's Bad Day. Very famous. Of course, other friends wanted me to write stuff about them, but Josh is too big of a character. Josh is such an easy character to write because I don't have to do a lot of stuff. I don't have to do a lot of legwork creatively because he is such a big personality and such a big character. So I don't have to do creative legwork to make, his motivation make sense, because he's like this in real life. So thank you, Josh. Thank you for being an inspiration for me. You're a great inspiration. Also, thank you, Ben and Zach. All three of you are massive inspirations to me for characters and writing and stuff. So big shout out to Zach, Ben, and Josh.